The New Jersey Devils have been one of the league's more active teams this offseason, both in free agency, the draft, and trades. Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils is here to talk about that and the team's outlook heading into training camp next on the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Devils, Trey Matthews. And Trey, never a dull moment over the last few weeks for the New Jersey Devils. Let's start about what happened even before the draft. The Devils landing their goalie, Jacob Markstrom. What impact do you think that'll have on the franchise going forward?
Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting circumstance for the Devils because Jacob Markstrom is up there in age and he has this season and then next season remaining on his contract. How will the Devils go on from there? We don't really know. But for the time being, I think Tom Fitzgerald did a good job in getting a goalie because if we look at some of the other options that were available, UC Saros, he just signed a lengthy extension with the Nashville Predators. Connor Hellebuck, he re-signed with the Jets last summer. Apparently, he was having his name float around in trade discussions, and I think the Devils were linked to him at one point. Then you see that the Ottawa Senators had to sacrifice their first round draft pick to the Boston Bruins to get Linus Ullmark. And the Devils, they sacrificed their first round draft pick next year and also Kevin Ball for Markstrom. Now, here's the thing. I don't think it's a lose-lose either way for the Devils because they didn't have to sacrifice their 10th overall pick in the draft that happened just last week. And also is like if the Devils are a playoff team once again, they're not going to care about that first round draft pick. But if they are absolutely awful yet again, then that first round draft pick that they sacrifice is top 10 protected. So if the Devils do end up tanking, they'll get that draft pick right back. And that sort of falls into their favor as well. My thing is like Jacob Markstrom, was he the best goalie available compared to some of the other names I just listed? No, but he did lead the league in shutout a couple seasons ago. He was second in the Vezina Trophy race, finishing behind Igor Shesterkin a couple years ago. I think Jacob Markstrom is an upgrade over the previous tandem that the Devils had, which was Jake Allen and Kaapo Kähkönen, or if you want to go a little bit further, Vitek Vanecek and Akira Schmid.
Who do you think will win the backup job behind Markstrom this year?
Jake Allen. That no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Jake Allen still has this season remaining on his contract. He was very good with the Devils, but the problem is like you don't really want to make him the go-to guy, especially if you want to be a playoff caliber team. Jake Allen, I think he'll be a solid backup, and Tom Fitzgerald has revealed that the intent is for Jacob Markstrom to be the starter.
Makes a lot of sense right there. As far as the Devils are concerned, also very busy with free agency, bringing in Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon to add to the blue line. How do these guys fit in, and what impact do you expect them to have on the Devils?
So let's go back a little bit. The Devils in last year's free agency lost Damon Severson, signed and trade with Columbus Blue Jackets, and also Ryan Graves, who signed a 6-year contract, I believe, with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Damon Severson, while he was always known as an offensive-minded defenseman, during that historic season that the Devils had, he took a step back in terms of focusing more on defense and less on offense. And he was a very good bottom four defenseman. That's why he suited up in 81 of the 82 potential games. And his scoring numbers, they went down, but his defensive impact, and you can look at the advanced analytics, they were there. And for Ryan Graves, he was always tops in the NHL for plus minus or defensive point shares ratings. So when the Devils lost that, they lost experience, they lost defensive capabilities, and it just left a hole that the Devils unfortunately could not fill. And their blue line this past season was very inexperienced in Luke Hughes, Shimon Nemeth, and also Santeri Hatakka. Excuse me. And they just signed Seamus Casey to his entry-level contract. So my thing is, like, they need to get more experience, and they did that in Brett Pesce. Even though Pesce's not the most physical guy, defensive-minded defenseman that knows where to place himself, and he has a tendency to elevate his game come playoff time. Brendan Dillon, very physical guy. I'm excited for him. And let me tell you an interesting fact, Gil. So the Devils got not only Brendan Dillon added to their blue line, they also got Paul Cotter as a bottom six asset. This past season, Cotter had 233 hits. Dillon had 241. You want to know what the Devils' record is?
Go ahead.
225 by Blake Coleman during the 2018-2019 season. Physicality was a point of emphasis for the Devils, and they were able to do that. So I like Brendan Dillon. I do like Brett Pesce, and they sort of focus more on defense, and it balances it out a little bit more. And Jonathan Kovacevic from the Montreal Canadiens, I think he was also very underrated as well. He sort of replaces Kevin Ball in a sense. Now you got some more defensive-minded defensemen, but at the same time, you got your players like Dougie Hamilton, Luke Hughes, Shimon Nemeth, guys that are going to focus more on the offense, but on the defense, Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon, and Jonas Siegenthaler.
Not bad at all. How about the additions at forward so far this offseason?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
How about the additions at forward so far this offseason?
Yeah. So Paul Cotter, like I just mentioned, I'll be honest, I think the Devils sacrificed just a little too much to get his services. They gave up Alexander Holtz and Akira Schmid on the second day of the draft. I feel like if you were to include Alexander Holtz and Akira Schmid in a different trade package, then maybe you could get a lot more. But I understand the direction that Fitzy was trying to go. He was trying to replace the productivity of Michael McLeod and Miles Wood. And unfortunately, no one's ever going to replace McLeod's face-off productivity. He was just one of a kind in that sort of category. But in terms of McLeod and Wood, they were both physical guys, blue-collar guys, and two players that could get their name into the score sheet every now and again, but they knew how to work the corners. They knew how to play aggressive. They weren't afraid to throw their bodies around. So you add Paul Cotter, you add Stefan Noesen, and offensively, Tomas Tatar, the Devils reunite with him, and he had a plus-minus rating of plus 41 a couple seasons ago with the Devils, and he and Nico Hischier absolutely dominated teams when they were on the same line together. They had an expected goal percentage of 64.2%, which I think is pretty good if you ask me. And will they recreate that magic? Only time will tell, but you replaced Alexander Holt's goal production with Tomas Tatar, and you replaced Wood and also McLeod's physicality and two-way ability with Stefan Noesen and Paul Cotter to an extent. But the one thing that Cotter needs to work on, he needs to work on being a little more consistent.
So what's left now for the Devils to do between now and training camp?
Fitzgerald revealed at his press conference that with how the cap is working right now, he's pretty much done, and the main focus is to re-sign Dawson Mercer. It's projected that he's going to get a bridge deal because, unfortunately, he had a career low in a lot of categories this past season, but he's still a very good asset, and Fitzgerald has said that Dawson Mercer is in the long-term plans. That's the mindset right now. In terms of trades, in terms of moves, free agency, I think the Devils are done. They're satisfied with what they got. They fixed a lot of needs, more bottom six depth, more defensive depth, and also a better goaltender. They did all that. Now the main focus shifts to getting Dawson Mercer back.
All right, Trey, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
You can find Locked On Devils wherever you get your podcast from, Apple, Spotify, wherever, also on YouTube. And you can follow me on social media at TreyMatt4 or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils. And I don't know when this episode is going to go live, but while you're at it, why don't you wish me a happy birthday? Just turned 25.
Happy birthday to you, Trey, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Obviously, you've got Major League Baseball. You want to bet on your favorite team. You want to bet on who the winning pitcher of a game is going to be, who's going to win the pennant. Lots of options there. Just head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.